And welcome everybody to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. Testimony continued on Monday as singing sensation Ed Sheeran tries to keep a civil lawsuit at bay in New York. You see, the fight is over whether he just took inspiration from a classic song or outright copied parts of it. Let's get you caught up to speed on what's happened so far. Let's go back to 2014. Ed Sheeran released the hit song Thinking Out Loud. But then a few years later, a woman named Catherine Townsend filed a lawsuit claiming copyright infringement. She is the daughter of Ed Townsend, who actually helped Marvin Gaye write the iconic love song Let's Get It On. Townsend claims the songs are too similar. Last week, Sheeran got on the stand to defend himself, saying there are only a certain number of musical notes and chords out there, so some songs are just bound to sound similar. He even brought his guitar to play for the jury. Now, it's not the lyrics that the jury will consider in this copyright fight. It's the actual melody, the harmony, the rhythm of the songs based on the sheet music. Which brings us to what is called musicology. The plaintiffs hired a musicologist to testify about the similarities of the songs. You see, it can be hard to parse out the similar chord progressions when you hear the two songs played, but once you break them down into their individual parts, it is easier to understand. Musicologists can be called as expert witnesses to talk about the music industry as a whole, as well as issues like licensing, co-writing, using a song for parody. Judith Fennell is a forensic musicologist who testified on behalf of the plaintiffs in the Blurred Lines lawsuit several years ago. You might remember this one. Marvin Gaye's estate had sued Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams, saying that Blurred Lines copied Gaye's hit Gotta Give It Up. Thicke, Williams, they lost. They were ordered to pay $5 million plus half of any future royalties for that song. Big judgment there. Well, we sat down with Judith Fennell to get her take on what's going on with the civil case filed by Catherine Townsend and how it's similar to that landmark Blurred Lines case. Plus, in the end, what will really be the outcome and what's it going to be based on?
In the end, though, if there's a lawsuit, the lay listener is the eventual judge and jury, if you will. Meaning that the untrained listener, your average juror who has probably little or no musical background, is making a decision based on really that particular person's or that group of persons, people, their perception of what they're hearing. And as I say, in this case, the present case, as well as the earlier case involving Marvin Gaye's music, the recording by Marvin Gaye is not being permitted, I believe. It's based on the copyright that protects only what you call the composition. So it's only what is called a lead sheet that was submitted for copyright, in a legal sense, was submitted for copyright protection. So the only thing that the analyst can look at is what's on the lead sheet, not what's on the recording, which would include a lot of other features. And that's the challenge of the present case with Mr. Sheeran, as well as the one involving Pharrell Williams and Robin Thicke, in which I testified.
Musicology, so interesting. All right, time to bring in one of my co-hosts, former trial attorney Terry Austin. Terry, this is your wheelhouse, civil law, but not only that, you were inside the courtroom to hear the testimony and evidence. Talk to us about it.
Well, Jesse, both sides are fighting really hard to win this case, but I was truly impressed by the humanity between these parties. Catherine Townsend was back in court today for the first time since she collapsed on Wednesday, reportedly due to a medical condition. This morning, before court began, Sheeran actually approached the plaintiff's table and embraced her. She thanked him and hugged him back. That was really refreshing. But once Sheeran got back on that stand for the end of his direct and the beginning of his cross, the gloves came off. Sheeran criticized plaintiff's musicologist and said the first 24 seconds of Thinking Out Loud was nothing like Let's Get It On. He literally said he thought what the expert was doing was criminal. Frankly, I was surprised that it wasn't an objection to that comment. Now, Sheeran also played again today in court, and he combined several songs with the same chord progressions, including Crazy Love by Van Morrison, which was recorded even before Let's Get It On. So essentially, Sheeran is saying two things. First, the chords are not identical, and secondly, the chords have been used by multiple parties countless times. Now, no matter who wins or loses this case, we're definitely going to witness a huge battle between the two, and the outcome is going to be significant to the music industry.
Terry, I'm jealous you got like a free concert. Not all of us can get that in a courtroom. Very good, great reporting as always. And welcome back to Law&Crime Daily, everybody. So we go now to Idaho, where doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell is being tried for murder. And on Monday, there was a huge revelation, a direct connection between Lori Vallow, one of the children she's accused of killing, 7-year-old JJ Vallow. She's also accused of killing her daughter, Tylee Ryan, but more to that in a second. Law&Crime correspondent Gigi McKelvey is in Boise, Idaho with the latest details on the testimony as we enter another week of trial.
I'm Gigi McKelvey outside the Ada County Courthouse. Bombshell revealed this morning in the Lori Vallow trial. Her hair was found on duct tape that accompanied the body of JJ Vallow. So that was the first big bombshell. Next up, we had an FBI agent who is walking us through the timeline and the cell phone pings of Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who is believed to be the killer of the children, as far as him going to gun ranges and shooting ranges on the day before and the day of when Tammy Daybell was shot at. Also, purchases were revealed that he made the day of, including a ski mask, a black pair of pants, and a pair of gloves that can be fingerless if you flip back. Now, the relevance of that is that on the 911 call, Tammy Daybell said that the person who attempted to shoot at her with what she thought was a paintball gun had on nothing other than a black mask that he bought at the Sportsman's Warehouse that very day. Stay with Law&Crime Network to bring you the latest. I'm Gigi McKelvey from Ada County Courthouse.
And that is not all. On Friday, Tammy Daybell's sister was back on the stand. Tammy was Chad Daybell's wife when he met Lori Vallow. Chad said Tammy had been sick and he woke up one morning to find her dead. An autopsy wasn't performed, but Tammy's body was later exhumed and it was determined that she died of asphyxiation. Just a couple of weeks after Tammy's death, Chad and Lori got married in Hawaii.
Did you ask Chad about whether or not Lori had children?
Yes, I did. I asked him in a phone call. I said, so please tell me about this woman that you've married to replace my sister with. And he told me that she had had a hard life and that the reason why they hadn't told me her name was because she was trying to, stay away from the stigma of what had happened to her. And I said, well, so please help me understand. So now that you've married her, are there children? Because I had seen the other information, and I said, are you going to be raising kids together? Mark will be coming home from his mission. And he told me no, that there's no children and that they were going to be empty nesters.
Time to talk about it. Terry joins me again, as well as defense attorney Brian Buckmeyer. So Terry, I'm going to start with you real quick. Let's go back to Lori's hair being found on the duct tape for a second. That feels like pretty damning evidence in a case where there hasn't been a ton of forensics tying her to the case.
Well, that's right. And frankly, I was very surprised to hear that. All of us, I think, as far as reporters are concerned, are thinking that, of course, she has been charged with conspiracy to commit murder and murder as far as the children are concerned. But I don't think anyone ever thought that she was actually taking part in that murder, actually helping to kill JJ and Tylee. We've always thought, at least based on the reports we've seen, that Alex was the one who was there. Perhaps Chad Daybell was there also, was on his property. He at least maybe was helping with the burial. We're all speculating just based on the evidence we've heard so far. Now that this hair is in evidence, we are really now able to tie Lori to the actual murder. And I think the jury hearing something like that, having hair in the duct tape that was on JJ, is definitely going to hurt her defense.
And Brian, Gwillem spoke a lot about Chad and Lori getting together pretty quickly after Tammy's death. Why is that coming in at trial? What's the prosecution trying to do with it?
Terry, I think it goes together with all of their storyline, the why for these murders, the motivation behind killing these children and getting the money. It was for these two to come together. So I think whether you want to call it res geste, which is the fancy way of saying completing the narrative or completing the story, or just saying that this is the connective tissue that's helping the jury understand why this was all going on according to the prosecution, I think it works well and it's right for the judge to bring it in. Now it's up to the defense to try to poke holes, but it seems pretty resistant to any hole poking, especially when you combine the DNA and the hair.
You thought the timeline, the statements were bad. Now we're getting a little bit of forensics. I mean, the prosecution is building a case, and they are building a case against Lori Vallow Daybell.